I always thought my life was normal. My name is Armin, a 26-year-old graphic designer living in a small apartment in the busy city of Karachi. My days were simple: work, coffee, late-night gaming, and spending time with my girlfriend Sarah. Sarah was different from anyone I had ever met. She was smart, confident, mysterious, and sometimes unpredictable. We had been together for almost a year, and I trusted her more than anyone. But one rainy evening, she asked me something that would completely change my life. Something strange. Something dangerous. The rainy night. That night the rain poured endlessly outside the window. The streetlights reflected on the wet roads, turning everything golden and blurry. Sarah sat on my couch, staring at me with an unusual expression. "Armin," she said quietly.
"Yeah."
"I need your help with something." I laughed. "That sounds serious." She didn't laugh back. Instead, she stood up, walked toward my bedroom, and returned holding a black shopping bag. She placed it on the table. "What's that?" I asked. Her eyes locked onto mine. "Clothes." I shrugged. "Okay, and?" Then she said something that made my brain freeze. "I want you to wear them." I frowned. "Why?" She hesitated for a moment. Then she slowly pulled the clothes out of the bag. A long feminine dress. High heels. A wig. Makeup. My heart skipped. "You're joking, right?" Sarah shook her head. "No." Confusion. I stood up immediately. "Sarah, what is this? Is this some prank?" She walked closer. "Just listen to me first." Her voice was calm, but there was tension behind it. "I need you to pretend to be someone tonight." "Someone?" I asked. "Yes." "Why me?" She looked toward the window, then back at me. "Because you're the only person I trust." Something about her tone felt different. Serious. Urgent. I crossed my arms. "You still haven't explained why I need to wear a dress." She took a deep breath. "Because the person we need to fool is expecting a woman." Silence filled the room. My mind raced. "This doesn't make sense," I said. "Who are we fooling?" Sarah didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled out a small photograph from her pocket and handed it to me. The photo showed a dangerous-looking man in a black suit standing outside a nightclub. "His name is Rashid Malik," she said. "And tonight, we're going to steal something from him." I stared at her in shock. "Wait, steal?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Yes." My stomach tightened. "Sarah, are you serious right now?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Rashid Malik is not just a businessman." She leaned closer. "He's a crime boss." The plan. Sarah explained everything. Rashid Malik owned several nightclubs across the city. But behind the scenes, he was involved in illegal deals, smuggling, and blackmail. And tonight, he would be meeting someone at a private club called the Sapphire Room. A woman. But that woman would never arrive. Instead. Sarah looked at me. "You will." My heart pounded. "This is insane." She shook her head. "No, it's the only way." "What exactly are we stealing?" Sarah hesitated again. Then she whispered the words that made everything even more dangerous. "A flash drive." "What's on it?" "Evidence." "Evidence of what?" Her voice dropped even lower. "Everything. The transformation." Before I could argue more, Sarah pushed the bag toward me. "Try it on." I stared at the dress again. "This is crazy." "Armin," she said softly, "please." Something in her eyes made me pause. Fear. Real fear. So against my better judgment. I agreed. 20 minutes later, I stood in front of the mirror. A long dark wig covered my hair. The dress fit surprisingly well. And the makeup Sarah applied made me almost unrecognizable. I looked like a completely different person. I felt ridiculous. Sarah stepped back and smiled slightly. Perfect. Perfect? I said nervously. I look like I'm about to embarrass myself in public. She shook her head. No. Her expression turned serious. You look exactly like the woman Rashid Malik is expecting. My heart started racing again. Okay, let's say this works, I said. Then what? Sarah pulled out her phone and showed me a map. You go inside the club. Rashid's men will take you to a private room. And? On his desk, there will be a black briefcase. And the flash drive is inside? She nodded. Take it and leave. That's it? Sarah didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward the door. Then back at me. And whispered something that made my blood run cold. There's just one problem. What problem? Her face turned pale. Rashid Malik never meets anyone alone. My chest tightened. Then who else will be there? Sarah swallowed slowly. His bodyguards. The ride. An hour later we were in the car, driving toward the club. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet and shining. My hands trembled. Sarah. I have a bad feeling about this. She kept her eyes on the road. I know. Then why are we doing it? Her answer was quiet. Because if we don't. She stopped speaking. Because if we don't what? She finally looked at me. And said something that made my heart drop. Then Rashid Malik will kill someone I love. The arrival. The neon sign of the Sapphire Room glowed blue in the night. Luxury cars were parked outside. Men in suits stood at the entrance. Security. Sarah parked the car a few blocks away. This is it. My throat went dry. You're really sending me in there? Yes. She grabbed my hand. Remember, just act confident. I stepped out of the car. The heels clicked against the wet pavement. My heart felt like it would explode. I walked toward the club entrance. The guards looked at me. One of them spoke into an earpiece. Then he nodded. Miss Nadia? I froze. But then remembered Sarah's instructions. I nodded. Yes. The guard smiled slightly. Mr. Malik has been waiting for you. The doors opened. And I walked inside. But the moment I entered the club, I saw something that made my stomach drop. At the far end of the room, Sarah was already there. Sitting at a table. Talking to Rashid Malik. And she looked terrified. The music inside the Sapphire Room pulsed through the floor. Dim blue lights reflected off the glass tables, and the air smelled like perfume, smoke, and expensive alcohol. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. But nothing scared me more than what I had just seen. Sarah. She was already inside the club. Sitting across from Rashid Malik. And she looked terrified. Something was very wrong. My mind raced. How was she already here? She was supposed to stay outside in the car. This made no sense. I tried to keep walking calmly, just like she had told me earlier. The heels clicked softly against the floor. 2 security guards walked toward me. One of them smiled politely. Miss Nadia? I nodded slowly, trying not to panic. Yes. Mr. Malik is expecting you. I forced a smile. Of course. But inside my head everything was chaos. Sarah, what did you do? The table. They led me toward the VIP section. Every step felt heavier. When we got closer, Rashid Malik looked up. He was exactly like the photograph. Tall. Sharp suit. Cold eyes. Dangerous. But the moment he saw me, something strange happened. He smiled.
Ah.
You finally arrived. Sarah's eyes suddenly widened when she saw me. Just for a second. Then she quickly looked down. That expression told me everything. She wasn't expecting me either. Rashid speaks. Please, Rashid said smoothly, pointing to a chair. Sit. My legs felt weak as I sat down. Sarah avoided eye contact. Rashid leaned back in his chair and studied me carefully. Long journey? I tried to sound calm. Not too bad. His eyes narrowed slightly. Something about the way he looked at me made my skin crawl. Then he suddenly laughed. You look nervous. I forced a soft laugh. First time in a place like this. He nodded slowly. Yes. I can see that. Sarah's silent warning. While Rashid poured a drink, Sarah briefly looked at me. Her eyes moved slightly. Left. Right. Then toward the exit. She was signaling something. Leave. But I couldn't just stand up and run. 2 bodyguards stood nearby. Another near the door. This was clearly not part of the plan. Rashid handed me a glass. Relax, he said. Tonight is an important meeting. My fingers trembled as I took the drink. What kind of meeting? His smile grew darker. The kind that decides who lives, and who disappears. The words made my chest tighten. The realization. Rashid leaned closer. You see, Miss Nadia, someone has been trying to steal from me. My stomach dropped. He continued calmly. And I absolutely hate thieves. Sarah's hands slowly tightened around her glass. I suddenly understood something terrifying. He already knew. Or at least he suspected something. Rashid turned towards Sarah. You told me she was trustworthy. Sarah forced a smile. She is. Rashid looked back at me. Good. Then he snapped his fingers. One of the bodyguards stepped forward carrying a black briefcase. My heart skipped. The flash drive. The exact thing Sarah told me to steal. Rashid placed the briefcase on the table. Slowly. Carefully. Like a predator playing with prey. The test. Rashid opened the briefcase halfway. Inside was a small black flash drive. There it is, he said. My breathing stopped. That little thing, Rashid continued, contains information worth millions. He closed the briefcase again. Then pushed it toward me. Take it. I froze. What? Go ahead, he said calmly. Pick it up. Something was terribly wrong. Sarah's face had turned pale. Rashid watched me closely. This was clearly some kind of test. But what choice did I have? Slowly. I reached for the briefcase. The moment my fingers touched it, Rashid suddenly grabbed my wrist. Hard. His eyes turned cold. Interesting. My heart nearly exploded. What? His grip tightened. Your hands. My mind raced. What about them? Rashid smirked. They're not the hands of a woman. The entire room suddenly felt silent. Sarah's eyes filled with panic. And Rashid leaned closer to my face. So tell me something. His voice turned deadly quiet. Who exactly are you? The gun. Before I could respond, one of the bodyguards suddenly pulled out a gun. The barrel pointed directly at my chest. The club music continued playing like nothing was wrong. But around our table, everyone was watching. Rashid let go of my wrist. Then slowly stood up. Remove the wig. My body froze. The guard cocked the gun. Do it. My hands trembled as I slowly removed the wig. Long hair fell away. The room went silent. Rashid stared at my face. Then looked at Sarah. And laughed. A slow, dangerous laugh. Well, well. His eyes burned with anger. You tried to trick me. Sarah stood up immediately. Rashid, listen. But he slammed his fist onto the table. Shut up. The entire club froze. Then Rashid looked back at me. You know what happens to people who try to steal from me? I couldn't speak. He leaned close to my ear and whispered. They disappear. Sarah's move. Suddenly. Sarah grabbed the briefcase. And ran. Everything exploded into chaos. Stop her. Rashid shouted. Bodyguards rushed forward. But in that exact moment, the club lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Someone screamed. A gunshot echoed. People panicked. And in the darkness, a hand suddenly grabbed mine. It was Sarah. Run, she whispered. The escape. We pushed through the panicking crowd. People were shouting. Glass shattered somewhere. Another gunshot echoed behind us. We burst through the club's back door into a dark alley. Rainwater dripped from the rooftops. Sarah was breathing heavily. She still held the briefcase. Move, she said. But before we could run, 3 black SUVs suddenly screeched into the alley. Doors opened. More armed men stepped out. And one familiar voice echoed through the darkness. Rashid Malik. He slowly stepped out of the car. Clapping. Well done, he said coldly. Then he pulled out a gun. And aimed it directly at us. You almost made it. Sarah grabbed my arm tightly. But Rashid's next words made everything worse. Unfortunately. He pointed at me. I already knew about him. My mind went blank. What? Rashid smiled darkly. You think this was your plan? He laughed again. No. His eyes turned icy. This was mine. The alley behind the Sapphire Room felt like a trap. Rainwater dripped from metal pipes above us. The headlights from 3 black SUVs lit the narrow alley like a stage. And standing in the middle of it was Rashid Malik. Gun in hand. Smiling. Sarah's grip on my arm tightened. Don't move, she whispered. But Rashid had already surrounded us. 6 armed men stepped out of the vehicles. Every exit blocked. There was nowhere to run. Rashid's revelation. Rashid slowly walked toward us, his expensive shoes splashing through puddles. You two really thought you could steal from me, he said calmly. Sarah stood in front of me slightly. Protective. You're making a mistake, she said. Rashid laughed.
Oh no.
He pointed at me. I knew about him the moment you started planning this little trick. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Sarah demanded. Rashid tilted his head. You really thought I wouldn't notice my own employee making suspicious phone calls? Sarah's face went pale. You monitored me? Of course. He shrugged. I trust no one. The hidden truth. Rashid snapped his fingers. One of the bodyguards stepped forward and tossed something at Sarah's feet. A phone. Sarah stared at it. That's mine. Rashid smiled. Yes. He leaned closer. And it records everything. My heart started pounding. You bugged her phone? I said. Rashid's eyes moved toward me. Yes. Then his voice turned darker. So I heard everything. The rain started falling again, light but steady. Rashid continued speaking slowly. Your plan, the dress, the flash drive. He spread his arms slightly. Very creative. Sarah clenched her fists. If you knew everything, why let it happen? Rashid's smile widened. Because I was curious. The dangerous game. He stepped closer until he was only a few feet away. I wanted to see how far you would go. Sarah looked furious now. You're insane. Rashid shrugged. Maybe. Then his eyes turned cold. But now the game is over. He raised the gun again. My breathing became shallow. Sarah slowly opened the briefcase she had grabbed. Rashid watched carefully. Inside was the flash drive. The one we risked everything for. Sarah held it up. You want this? She said. Rashid smiled. Yes. But first, she said quietly, you answer one question. Rashid raised an eyebrow. Oh. Why keep something this dangerous? The rain grew heavier. Rashid's expression changed slightly. Then he said something unexpected. Because it protects me. The flash drive. He pointed at the drive in her hand. That device contains records. Records of what? I asked. Every deal, Rashid said calmly. Every bribe. Every crime. Sarah frowned. Then why keep it? Rashid looked proud. Because powerful people fear evidence. My mind slowly started understanding. You're blackmailing them. Rashid smiled again. Exactly. He nodded approvingly. You're smarter than you look in that dress. I ignored the comment. Sarah's voice was shaking slightly. That means if this information gets out. Rashid finished the sentence. Half the city's most powerful men would go to prison. The rain poured harder now. But something still didn't make sense. I looked at Sarah. You said someone would die if we didn't get this. Sarah didn't respond. Rashid did. Oh yes. He looked amused. That part is true. My chest tightened. Who? Rashid slowly turned his head toward Sarah. Then said the words that froze my blood. Her brother. The real reason. I stared at Sarah in shock. You never told me that. Her eyes filled with guilt. I couldn't. Rashid laughed softly. Your dear brother made a mistake. Sarah glared at him. He didn't do anything. Rashid shrugged. He stole from me. So you kidnapped him? I said angrily. Rashid's smile disappeared. I prefer the term leverage. Sarah's voice trembled. Let him go. Rashid shook his head. Not until I get my drive back. He pointed his gun again. Now, hand it over. Sarah hesitated. If she gave it back, everything would be for nothing. But if she didn't, her brother might die. The alley felt suffocating. Then suddenly, a loud engine roar echoed from the street. Everyone turned. Headlights appeared at the end of the alley. A black motorcycle sped toward us. Fast. Too fast. The rider jumped off before the bike even stopped. Helmet. Leather jacket. Unknown. One of Rashid's guards raised his gun. Stop. But the stranger moved first. 3 quick punches. One guard down. Another kicked into the wall. Everything happened in seconds. Rashid stepped back in shock. Who the hell? The stranger pulled off the helmet. Sarah gasped. No way. I looked closer. And my jaw dropped. It was her brother. Amir. The man Rashid claimed was kidnapped. Standing right there. Alive. And furious. The twist. Amir looked straight at Sarah. You shouldn't have come here. Sarah looked confused. But. Rashid said. Amir interrupted her. Rashid didn't kidnap me. Everyone froze. What? I said. Amir's eyes turned toward Rashid. He was protecting me. My mind felt like it exploded. Sarah looked completely lost. Then, why did you tell me he was in danger? Amir looked ashamed. Because someone else is after the flash drive. The rain thundered down now. Rashid slowly smiled again. You see? He looked at us both. The real enemy hasn't even arrived yet. And right at that moment, a red laser dot appeared on Rashid's chest. Then another. Then another. Sniper lasers. Dozens. From the rooftops. A calm voice echoed from above. Well done, Rashid. A shadow appeared on the roof edge. And the man said something that made everyone freeze. You delivered the drive exactly where we wanted. The rain fell harder now, echoing through the narrow alley. Red laser dots danced across the walls, across the cars, across our bodies. Snipers. At least 10 of them. Everyone froze. Even the dangerous Rashid Malik slowly lowered his gun. On the rooftop above us, a tall man stepped forward from the shadows. Black coat. Calm posture. And a voice that sounded terrifyingly confident. Well done, Rashid, he said again. You delivered the drive exactly where we wanted. My heart pounded in my ears. Sarah whispered beside me, who is that? But Rashid already knew. His jaw tightened. You, he said quietly. The man on the roof. The stranger stepped into the light. I couldn't see his face clearly because of the rain, but his presence alone made the air feel heavy. He laughed softly. Miss me? Rashid looked furious now. I thought you were dead. The man shrugged. Many people wish that. Sarah looked confused. Rashid, who is he? Rashid didn't answer. But Sarah's brother Amir did. And what he said shocked me. That's Victor Kane. My stomach twisted. Who? Amir looked grim. The man who runs the biggest crime network in the region. The rain kept pouring. Victor Kane spread his arms slightly. Such a warm introduction. The real target. Victor's eyes moved down toward Sarah. Then toward me. Then toward the flash drive in Sarah's hand.
Ah,
He said. There it is. Sarah instinctively tightened her grip. Victor smiled. That little device contains years of information about my business. The realization hit me instantly. You're the one being blackmailed. Victor chuckled. Yes. Rashid stepped forward angrily. You should have stayed hidden, Kane. Victor tilted his head. Why? So you could keep bleeding my network dry? His tone suddenly hardened. I've lost millions because of that drive. Then he raised one finger. And now I'm taking it back. The standoff. Snipers kept their lasers aimed at everyone below. Rashid's men were frozen. One wrong move and it would be over. Victor looked directly at Sarah. Throw it up. Sarah didn't move. No. Victor's smile disappeared. Don't be stupid. Sarah's voice became stronger. This drive exposes everything. Victor laughed again. You really think anyone would believe it? Sarah didn't respond. Victor looked slightly annoyed now. You are a very brave woman. Then he pointed toward me. But your boyfriend looks much less brave. My chest tightened. Sarah stepped slightly in front of me again. Leave him out of this. Victor leaned forward on the rooftop edge. Oh, I will. Then he added calmly. After he's dead. The first shot. Everything happened suddenly. A gunshot cracked through the rain. But it wasn't from the snipers. It was Rashid. He fired straight at the rooftop. Chaos exploded instantly. Snipers began firing. Bullets sparked off the SUVs. Everyone scattered. Sarah grabbed my arm. Move. We ducked behind a car. Amir tackled one of Rashid's guards and took his weapon. Gunfire echoed everywhere. Glass shattered. Engines roared as drivers tried to escape the alley. Victor disappeared from the roof edge. I heard someone shouting orders above. Sarah turned toward me. Listen carefully. Her voice was urgent. We have to get out of here. But the snipers. She shook her head. They want the drive, not us. Amir slid beside us behind the car. We have maybe 30 seconds before they push in. My head spun. What do we do? Sarah looked at the briefcase. Then at me. Then she said something that shocked me. You run. What? You take the drive and run. I stared at her. You can't be serious. She nodded. You're the only one they won't expect. Another bullet slammed into the car door. Metal dented inches from my face. Amir pointed toward a narrow passage behind the alley. There's a service exit. Sarah grabbed my shoulders. Go. But what about you? Her eyes softened. We'll hold them here. I shook my head. No way. She suddenly kissed my forehead quickly. Trust me. Then she shoved the briefcase into my hands. Run. The escape route. I sprinted toward the dark passage behind the alley. Gunshots echoed behind me. Rain soaked my clothes. My heels slipped on the wet ground, but I kept moving. The passage opened into another street. Empty. Silent. I kept running. Cars passed in the distance. Neon lights flickered above small shops. My lungs burned. But I didn't stop. Finally, I reached a quiet intersection and hid behind a dumpster. My heart raced as I opened the briefcase. The flash drive was still inside. The tiny object that everyone was willing to kill for. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A calm voice spoke. Good evening, Armin. My blood turned cold. Who is this? The voice chuckled. You've been very helpful tonight. I recognized it instantly. Victor Kane. How did you get my number? Oh, please, he said casually. You really think we didn't investigate you? My grip tightened around the phone. What do you want? Victor's voice became colder. I want you to bring me the drive. And if I don't? He paused. Then said something that made my legs feel weak. Then Sarah dies. My chest froze. You don't have her. Victor laughed. Look behind you. Slowly. I turned around. Across the street. A black van door slid open. Two armed men stepped out. And between them was Sarah. Her hands tied. Her face bruised. Victor spoke again through the phone. Now you see the situation. My mind spun. You said they wanted the drive, not us. Victor laughed again. Oh, Armin. His voice turned icy. That was before you ran away with it. Rain continued falling across the empty street. The black van's headlights cut through the darkness. And standing between two armed men was Sarah. Her hands tied. Her face bruised. My heart felt like it was being crushed. The calm voice of Victor Kane echoed through the phone again. Well, Armin, he said softly, now you understand the situation. I clenched the phone tightly. What do you want? Victor chuckled. You already know. My eyes moved down to the briefcase in my hand. The flash drive. The thing everyone was willing to kill for. The impossible choice. If you give me the drive, Victor said, your girlfriend walks away. And if I don't? He didn't hesitate. Then she dies. The rain tapped against the pavement. Sarah looked at me across the street. Even from this distance I could see her shaking her head slightly. Don't do it. My mind raced. If I handed over the drive, Victor would erase all the evidence against him. But if I refused, Sarah might die. Victor's voice returned. 10 seconds. I swallowed hard. You won't kill her. Victor laughed. You really want to test that theory? One of the armed men raised his gun towards Sarah's head. My chest tightened instantly. Wait. A memory. In that moment, my mind flashed back to earlier that night. Sarah's words in the car. Trust me. Something about that memory made me hesitate. Sarah had planned everything carefully. Too carefully. And suddenly, I realized something. She wasn't panicking. Even now, tied up, she looked strangely calm. Why? Victor spoke again. 5 seconds. My brain raced faster. Something wasn't right. Then I noticed something small. Sarah's fingers were moving. Very slightly. She was trying to signal something. But what? Victor's voice grew colder. 3 seconds. My eyes focused on her hands again. She repeated the movement. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. My heart skipped. It was Morse code. I had learned it once in school. 3 short signals meant 1 letter. S. She was repeating it. S. 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 Suddenly it clicked. Smoke. The distraction. Without warning. A loud explosion echoed behind the van. Everyone turned. Thick gray smoke poured from a nearby alley. The street filled with confusion. One of Victor's men shouted, "What the?" Then another explosion. This one closer. Victor's voice shouted through the phone. What's happening? And in that moment of chaos, Sarah moved. She slammed her head backward into the guard behind her. He stumbled. She kicked the other guard in the knee. The gun fired into the air. I ran. Straight across the street. Another figure suddenly appeared from the smoke. It was Amir. Sarah's brother. He tackled one of the gunmen. Gunfire erupted again. People screamed from nearby buildings. Sarah broke free from the rope around her wrists. She grabbed the fallen gun. Get down, she shouted. We ducked behind the van. Amir fired 2 quick shots. The remaining gunmen fled into the smoke. The entire street became chaos. Victor's voice screamed through the phone. You idiots. Then the call disconnected. The truth about the plan. For a moment everything went quiet except the rain. Sarah looked exhausted. You okay? She asked me. I nodded slowly. You planned that? She shook her head. Not exactly. Amir joined us, breathing heavily. Those smoke bombs bought us a few minutes. Who threw them? I asked. Amir looked down the street. A car slowly approached through the fading smoke. A black sedan. It stopped beside us. The window rolled down. And sitting inside was someone I didn't expect to see again tonight. Rashid Malik. He looked slightly injured but very much alive. Well, he said calmly. That was dramatic. Sarah stared at him. You followed us? Rashid smirked. Of course. An unexpected alliance. Rashid stepped out of the car slowly. You still have the drive? I held up the briefcase. Yes. Rashid nodded approvingly. Good. Sarah frowned. Why help us? Rashid looked toward the dark rooftops. Because now we share the same enemy. Amir added quietly. Victor Kane won't stop until he gets that drive. Rashid agreed. And if he gets it, every witness against him disappears. My head spun. So what do we do? Rashid's eyes turned serious. We end it. Sarah crossed her arms. How? Rashid pointed toward the briefcase. With that. The final twist. Rashid opened the briefcase. But the moment he picked up the flash drive, his expression changed. What? Sarah looked confused. What's wrong? Rashid turned the device over in his fingers. Then he laughed softly. Interesting. My stomach dropped. What? Rashid held up the drive. This one is empty. The rain suddenly felt colder. Empty? I said. Sarah looked shocked. That's impossible. Amir frowned. Then where's the real one? Rashid looked directly at Sarah. Then slowly smiled. I think you already know. Sarah's eyes widened. Slowly. She reached into the inside pocket of her jacket and pulled out a second flash drive. The real one. I stared at her. You had it the whole time? She nodded quietly. Yes. Rashid laughed again. Well played. But before anyone could say anything else, a red laser dot suddenly appeared on Sarah's chest again. Then another. And another. From the rooftops. Victor Kane's voice echoed from the darkness. Clever trick. We all looked up. And there he stood again on a rooftop. Smiling. I was wondering when you'd reveal the real one. Sarah's face turned pale. Victor raised a hand slightly. Now. His voice became deadly calm. Hand it over. The rain slowed to a cold drizzle. Red sniper lasers covered the street again. Every one of them pointed at Sarah. And in her hand was the real flash drive. The thing everyone had been chasing all night. On the rooftop above us stood Victor Kane. Smiling. Waiting. The final demand. Victor's voice echoed down the street. Drop it. Sarah didn't move. Her fingers tightened around the flash drive. Beside me, Rashid Malik slowly raised his hand slightly so the snipers wouldn't fire. Easy, Rashid said calmly. Victor chuckled from above. Look at that. The two enemies finally standing together. Sarah spoke firmly. You're finished, Victor. Victor laughed loudly. Finished? He gestured toward the snipers. I have 20 rifles aimed at you. Try me. Armin's realization. I looked around. Every rooftop. Every angle. There was no way out. Victor had complete control. Then something suddenly clicked in my mind. Victor had said something earlier. Half the city's most powerful men would go to prison. Which meant the flash drive wasn't just evidence against him. It was evidence against everyone. And suddenly I understood something important. Victor didn't want the drive destroyed. He wanted it silenced. Sarah suddenly looked at me. Her eyes told me she had realized the same thing. The gamble. Victor's voice cut through the silence. 3 seconds. Hand it over. Sarah raised the flash drive slightly. Victor smiled. Good choice. But instead of throwing it, Sarah lifted it higher. Then shouted something unexpected. Everyone here should hear this. Victor's smile faded. What? Sarah held the drive up toward the rooftops. This device contains records of every criminal deal in this city. The snipers hesitated. Victor's voice became sharper. Stop talking. But Sarah kept going. Politicians. Police chiefs. Crime bosses. Rashid raised an eyebrow slightly. Sarah turned slowly so the snipers could see her clearly. And if anything happens to us tonight. She held the flash drive tighter. The entire file will automatically be released online. Victor went completely silent. Then he said something slowly. You're bluffing. Sarah shook her head. No. She looked directly at him. I sent the file to 3 different servers an hour ago. My eyes widened. She never told me that. Victor's voice grew colder. You think that protects you? Sarah nodded. Yes. Because if we die, your empire burns with us. The turning point. For the first time all night. Victor Kane looked uncertain. The snipers shifted slightly on the rooftops. No one fired. Rashid stepped forward carefully. Seems like your move, Kane. Victor glared down at him. You should have stayed out of this. Rashid shrugged. You should have killed me years ago. The rain stopped completely now. The entire street felt frozen in time. Victor looked at Sarah again. Then at the flash drive. Then he slowly laughed. Impressive. He shook his head. I underestimated you. Sarah didn't respond. Victor sighed. Very well. He raised one hand toward the snipers. And said the word everyone had been waiting for. Stand down. One by one. The red laser dots disappeared. The rifles lowered. Victor stepped back from the rooftop edge. You win tonight. The end of the night. Police sirens suddenly echoed in the distance. Loud. Getting closer. Victor smiled one last time. Enjoy your victory. Then he vanished into the darkness of the rooftop. Within seconds, the snipers disappeared too. The street fell silent. Sarah finally lowered the flash drive. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Is it really over? Rashid looked toward the rooftops. For now. The aftermath. Minutes later, police cars filled the street. Officers rushed everywhere. Questions were shouted. Witnesses gathered. Sarah quietly handed the flash drive to one officer. Be careful with that. Rashid gave a small smirk. That little device is about to make headlines. Amir clapped my shoulder. You survived your first criminal conspiracy. I laughed nervously. Barely. Sarah turned toward me. Her eyes softened. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I looked down at the soaked dress I was still wearing. Well. I shrugged. That was definitely the weirdest night of my life. She smiled slightly. Then said something that made me laugh. You actually pulled off the disguise pretty well. One last surprise. As police lights flashed around us, Rashid walked over quietly. He leaned closer to Sarah. Be careful. Sarah frowned. Why? Rashid's expression turned serious. Victor Kane doesn't lose. My stomach tightened again. What do you mean? Rashid looked toward the dark skyline. He's already planning his next move. Sarah crossed her arms. Then we'll stop him again. Rashid gave a slow smile. I hope so. Then he walked away. The final scene. Later that night, Sarah and I stood on the rooftop of my apartment building. The city lights of Karachi stretched across the horizon. Everything felt strangely peaceful. You okay? She asked. I nodded.
Yeah.
Then I looked at her. Next time you need help with something. She smiled. Yes? I pointed at the dress. Maybe we choose a less complicated plan. She laughed softly. But before she could answer, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She frowned. Then answered. Hello? A calm voice spoke through the phone. A voice I immediately recognized. Victor Kane. Good evening, Sarah. Her face froze. What do you want? Victor chuckled. Just calling to say something. Sarah's voice became tense. What? Victor's final words echoed through the phone. Round 2 begins soon. The call ended. Sarah slowly lowered the phone. I looked at her. What did he say? She stared at the city skyline. Then whispered. We're not done yet.